coming. I hope all is well. We have a wonderful speaker, and I'm going to let Alan introduce him to you. Okay? So there you go, Alan.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Keith Rashid is a passionate advocate for accessibility and inclusion, recreation, and travel. With over 20 years of experience organizing customized group vacations and programs, he works to ensure people with disabilities have equitable access and opportunities to explore and connect. His background in human rights, equity, combined with his lived experience, drives his mission to make leisure and social activities truly inclusive. Keith has collaborated with global partners to explore accessibility, travel, and recreation, encouraging everyone to dare to dream and to embrace all of the possibilities available. Welcome, Keith, and thank you for joining us. It's good to see you here.
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity, Alan. It's my pleasure to join the group, and good afternoon, everybody. I hope today will be educational as well as inspirational, and we can, get started if no one has any questions before we get going. All right. So many of you might be wondering, what exactly is this Access Travel Club? And, thanks for those kind words, Alan. So, 20 years ago, having a background in the travel and tourism space, predominantly in what we'll call the mass market of organizing tours and dealing with, various different destinations and suppliers in my so-called corporate rat race life. I, at a point, decided to go back to school and seek out further knowledge and learning, which is what led me into the world of human rights and equity, and probably the best move I've ever made. Being born with my own disability helped me appreciate and understand the needs of others and things that I had taken for granted. I've been fortunate enough to travel most of the continents of this world, with the exception of one, and I'll leave that to your imagination to guess at the end, and we'll see who wins maybe a prize if you guess the right one. And that's still on my bucket list. But it led me to various different organizations that reached out and asked me to help them, develop a project to motivate, promote independence, self-esteem for individuals, with different mobility challenges, and to see if we could create opportunities and experiences for everybody to have the right to travel the world and to have a quality of life that we each deserve. And so that was really the genesis and the motivation around building this Access Travel Club. And happy to say, as you'll see in the presentation that I'm about to share, some of the goals that we've achieved, and still some of the challenges that we look forward to overcoming and to making possible, as we say, or the possibilities. So I will just queue up a short video, which will give you a pictorial of some of the aspirations in developing this project, and then some of the accomplishments. So if we're good to get started, everyone, I will just share my screen if you give me 1 second. Sorry, forgot to hit the share screen before I did that. So let's just backtrack for 1 second. Thanks for your patience. There we go. technology is being a little challenging. Give me 1 second to try this again. All right. Can everybody, well, basically see a black screen at the moment? All right, let's see if this video will run as hoped. All right, we'll stop that from the replay there. So as you can see, hopefully that gave you a little bit of perspective of some of the opportunities and experiences that we've curated over the 20 years that we've been at this mission. And, you know, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, our mission, our goal here at the Access, my team, is to ensure that every day that we challenge ourselves to the world of possibilities, and that we do everything within our power to engage with our members, their families, their friends, to understand the needs of the individuals who are willing to explore the world and to dare to dream, as we say. I'm hoping everybody can see the slide. Excellent. So, as I said earlier, we were challenged with creating a program taking into consideration some of the mobility impairments that individuals may have. And we're going to talk a little bit about the brief history of the Access to Travel Club and what membership opportunities, and then give you also the opportunity to provide any feedback, ask any questions, etc. So if you just want to, if we can just go around the table or the screen, I guess in this case, just share your name and something interesting about you, Susan.
Oh, sure. You hit me first.
Yes.
All right. Okay, my name is Susan Flowers. I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Something interesting about me. Oh, I don't know. I like people. I feel very, very passionate about the LPO organization.
Excellent, excellent. And Janet, how about yourself?
I'm Janet Jones, and I live in Toronto as well. And I retired. Sorry, they're drilling upstairs. There's noise in the background.
No worries.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And I retired in 2019, and I was really hoping to do a lot of traveling. Seeing I retired, and then COVID came in, and now I've had one hip replacement, and I'm looking at another one, so I have a bit of mobility issues.
Okay. And what would you say is the most interesting place you've traveled to in your life?
Gee. I did a Mediterranean cruise,
Wow.
so I've seen quite a few different countries in one trip. So
Excellent.
western end of the Mediterranean kind of. So, and I love Italy. I've been to Italy twice.
Okay.
And I love art and stained glass windows and churches and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, Italy is definitely beautiful. Sorry, was it Daryl? I can't see the full screen of names here.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Daryl. This is my wife, right next to me, Deborah, and she'll talk later, I guess.
Sure, hi, Deborah.
I've done a little bit of traveling. I'm retired for 3 years now. Will be 3 years in November. I did traveling through the Little People organization in that we went to different LPA, and LPO and LPC conferences throughout Canada and United States. We've gone twice for winter vacation in Mexico. Really enjoyed the weather when we left here in January. Very cold and very nice there. The food and the people there was very nice. And don't plan on any further or future travels due to mobility. So
Yeah.
and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. No, thank you for sharing. Did I miss anybody?
Yeah,
Well, hi, I'm Deborah.
Hi,
And
Deborah.
I'm interested in learning though what as we were aging, mobility issues are a little more difficult. So I'm really interested to see what is out there to help us, and so that if we do travel, like we can look into these things. But when you're unaware,
Yeah.
you don't know what to look for. So yeah, we got a sister in the States. We have visited often in Omaha, Nebraska, and been to Hawaii, been to Mexico. So we've traveled a little bit, but it's getting more limited for us now.
Right, right. Well, yeah, no, hopefully we'll be able to provide you with some additional information and knowledge to help navigate future trips because we still have a long life to live and we want to make it as interesting as possible. So hopefully we'll have some answers for you or some more additional information to inspire you and motivate you to keep going. Excellent. All right. So let me ask you then that hopefully, as I said, seeing that video there, that there are opportunities and experiences all around the world. What would you say is on your bucket list, Deborah? Where, if you won the lottery tomorrow, let's hope you do, what would be on your bucket list?
I would have to say I love Italy and the Grecian islands and that type of thing. That would be wonderful to if able to go. Um, but but just just to see some beauty in nature and whatnot, it's that's more appealing rather than things, and but anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
Daryl, how about you?
Insofar as future travel or
Yeah.
on my
Mhm.
bucket list,
Yeah.
I'm quite content, to be honest with you, with just staying home. I think because of the world affairs, wars, and different things, I just have a sense of anxiety and fear. So
Mhm.
staying in my home and backyard and
Feeding the birds.
feeding the birds through the winter and gardening in the spring to fall. And reading. I enjoy reading, and I'll end with I get my travel by watching Rick Steves on PBS. He travels around the world, and I get to go all the places, and I save a lot of money.
Yeah, no, there are obviously issues all over the world, and it's all about personal preferences and comfort levels as to where we want to go, and it's perfectly fine, not to necessarily have to think about big travel adventures all around the world. However, a goal to maybe get out to local events or little weekend retreats if you feel comfortable, as many of us do right now with what's going on with our neighbors to the south. Staying within Canada is still giving us many, many opportunities that we sometimes take for granted, but will keep us within our comfort zone. So I fully understand that. Janet, how about you? Any particular destination that you've got on your bucket list or thoughts in your mind that you'd like to get to?
I'd like to go back to Italy. I've seen Rome, and I'd like to see Venice and Florence.
Okay.
My parents went to Greece, and they did a 3-week trip. One
Right.
week was a cruise, 1 week was an island,
Okay.
and one was being in Athens. That was the last week,
Right.
which they should have really done first. The other two could have been more relaxing. But they stationed in Athens and then took day trips out and around to see the rest of Greece.
Excellent.
I'd like to go to Jamaica again. I haven't been there. I was born in Jamaica, so I'd like to go back there sometime.
All right. Well, maybe we can make that happen. Susan, how about yourself? Any particular destination in your mind of what you'd like to get to or where you'd like to get to?
I'm very fortunate. I have traveled quite a bit when I was younger and more able to. But my mobility and health is giving me a lot of challenges. So in saying that, I would love to. I did parts of Europe and Spain and Portugal. I did Tangiers. I did different parts of the States, Barbados, South America stops. So I would, if I could, I would love to go to Australia and New Zealand and Ireland.
Excellent. Wow. You are a world traveler there based on the destination.
Well, a little bit, and I'm so glad I did it when I had the opportunity and my mobility was better for me.
Well, don't give up yet. There's still opportunities, and with hopefully some ideas that we'll get to here. Alan, I wanted to give you, and sorry, was it Deborah also?
No, it's Carol.
Carol, I'm sorry, Carol.
Yeah, I did a little bit of what Susan did. I traveled a lot when I was younger. Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Germany, kind of across Canada. And then we did a cross Canada tour driving last year. And the year before we were in Germany for the World Dwarf Games, where we were traveling around a bit. But it's it's a challenge times trying to navigate some of the methods and try to, particularly if you're figuring out something for the first time, once you've done one thing, maybe
Yeah.
it's easier, like making sure you get the train on time when you're traveling between European countries, yes, but cities, and how it works. We were a little concerned sitting on the platform, and how they're right on time and you're waiting and somebody's supposed to be there to help you on, and it's like 1 minute, two, and all the rest of the stuff, and nobody's there, and you worry they're not going to, but they showed up, they
Very
got
good.
us on, and it was all good. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
but
it's
we'd like to do a lot of different things. Yeah, what kind of where do you want to go?
Everywhere. Um, well, I studied travel and tourism in college, and that's
okay.
what I wanted to do. I wanted to travel and get out in the world. life throws you curveballs.
Yep.
So didn't do it. But I've been to like, was it Germany, Mexico, Dominican Republic, yeah, and a bit of Canada. Um, on my bucket list, I'd like to see Argentina for no other reason than I did a project on it in school once, and I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah.
And nobody I knew ever had been to South America, and I thought I've got to go.
Right.
And also somewhere warm because I like the heat. Fiji. I really want to go to Fiji.
Oh, yeah, I can attest to how beautiful Fiji is. I've had the opportunity. So for many of you, as you said, you've still got dreams and aspirations, which is great. And sometimes it's just figuring out the logistics, right? Of how do we make sure that all the plans are in place so that we don't have that anxiety and that stress of wondering. And sometimes, you know what, even if it's not on your bucket list, if you look on the bottom left, you just throw a dart at a map and that's where you go. Sometimes it's got to be as simple as that if you can't decide between multiple destinations. So, what the Access Travel Club's mission, as I was saying earlier, is to provide a variety of different programs and services. And our goal is to help individuals with differing abilities to overcome some of the barriers that you brought up as we went around the screen on how to participate, whether it's done through virtual opportunities. We meet every week, and so in terms of daring to dream and to sort of prepare ourselves for the next in-person opportunity, whether that be a travel opportunity, a recreational or a social opportunity, we would welcome any of you to come and join us and dare to dream, as I said, and also, to network and socialize with others, because quite often, if you're looking to go to a place, apart from, looking through the travel magazines or, somebody alluded to watching a TV show of someone doing it. It's about talking to others that have walked in your shoes and have done it and how they've overcome some of those challenges. And with, as I said, a little bit of help, whether it be from our team or giving you some tips on how to travel and prepare. What we hope to be able to do is create programs that provide opportunities that improve quality of life. So at the bottom, you'll see there our mission that we've got on our office wall. So every morning when we walk in for our team meetings, we look at that little formula there that's in asterisk, POE equals QOL. Anybody want to try dissecting what that might mean?
Quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the end goal, and our mission is the POE as organizers of designing programs. That might be a little bit of a hint. So we walk in every day recognizing that it's our job to provide opportunities and experiences to help others enjoy a quality of life. Okay. So making travel available and accessible for all of our club members, through virtual and in-person opportunities allows people to connect, to socialize, and to create new friendships and lifelong memories. So as some of you alluded to, our best memories are when we get away from home, because we know we're coming back there, but we just don't know if we will ever get the opportunity to go to many of those destinations that you still have on your bucket list, or some of the places that you've already been to. And we truly believe that, travel and recreation and leisure programs have, the characteristics that facilitate social inclusion. So yes, you do have to get outside your comfort zone. You do have to take a little bit of a leap of faith, but that's really the beauty of life. So we created a saying here at the club that where there's a will, there's a way. And as you can see through the various different photographs of what, individuals like ourselves have aspired to do, whether it's going to Europe, going on an African safari, riding a camel, parachuting, going skiing down a mountain. These are all, as we like to say, possibilities with a little bit of preparation and planning. So, why travel? So everyone needs that quality of life, that opportunity to have social and leisure time, to have a balanced lifestyle. And that also includes everybody with, persons living with a disability. And research does show that unfortunately, there are fewer opportunities, fewer friendships that are developed, less community involvement for people living with disabilities. And so we ventured out to do something about that. The evidence shows that, these are the things that help achieve that quality of life that we were talking about earlier. Physical activity. Quite often, I know it seems a little bit daunting to, get out and do various different exercises, but it's not always about going to a gym, right? Quite often, people are like, oh, no, Keith, come on. I'm not going to go to a gym and work out. That's not necessarily what physical activity means. It may just mean doing, some meditation and some mindfulness exercises, doing it either individually or collectively as part of a social network or group. And then, getting some leisure education, into the community and experiencing whether it's an activity, going to the theater, or perhaps a weekend retreat to a nearby destination. As I said, some of you alluded to doing a car trip. It doesn't have to necessarily be, that we have to jet off to the other side of the world and worry about, is there going to be accessible transportation on the other side? Am I going to be able to get into bed in whatever hotel room or use, the public facilities? So the evidence shows, and so when we reviewed the literature and worked with the different vendors, what we do is show them this model, which is a bottom-up approach, unlike most organizations working from the top down. What we believe is that by developing a contact and some interaction, with various social support providers in the travel and tourism world, whether that's the consulates or the authorities or the airlines, etc., we can share with them and understand, what are the relationships and the activities that can be offered at a particular destination, whether that be, local or domestic or international, etc. And through those opportunities, we understand and know that there is an element of health and well-being. So it leads to increased positive effects and hopefully decreases any negative effects, social isolation and depression, just as examples, or mental health. So when we surveyed our constituents, we asked them, what are the activities that they enjoy mostly? And right up there, you can see far and wide travel was something that many of them aspired to or believed they could no longer do and wish they did. And that was, as I said, the beginning of the formation of the Access Travel Club. Socializing. So again, if the ability wasn't there necessarily to go halfway across the world, they just wanted to get together on a regular basis, get support from peers, do various different outings and events, whether that's within their municipality. So we introduced a Let's Get Social program, which is a monthly get together where you tie it in with an event, maybe a cooking class, and then you get to enjoy the fruits of the hard work that you put in. It might be going out to a restaurant and then going to a sporting event or a theatrical production. Also, education and information, learning about different destinations without necessarily having to go to it tomorrow. And so that's where the virtual program comes in. And then finally, if there is the capacity and the ability, there is adaptable exercise programs. As I said, sometimes it might be daunting to go into a gym and watch, a counterpart lifting 300-pound weights. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about some of the, the gentle exercises, whether they be, yoga and Tai Chi, meditation, as I spoke about earlier. So engaging with, therapists that have a background in providing adaptable and accessible opportunities. So we offer group vacation options in one way, as we've seen through the presentation, that help take the stress out of daily life. And the beauty of it, many of you alluded to the concern or the anxiety about planning and organizing. The fact that we do this at a group level with the support of my team allows each one of the individuals to just relax. And, through the assessments and discussions that we have with everybody that's interested in participating, we understand what the barriers might be to engagement. And, whether we're planning weekend or week-long or daily trips, as we said, where there's a will, we will collectively find a way. And doing that in a supportive environment with friends who understand some of those barriers to inclusion, can be positive and lead to lifelong memories because you don't feel isolated and alone. It also gives caregivers the opportunity, whether they want to join in the experience, and if not, to take a little bit of a break and relax, knowing that their loved ones are going to be in a fun and a nurturing environment. So we allow members to, family members to participate just as much as the members themselves. So as we said, about 20 years ago now, we started this project with about 8 people. We took an Eastern Caribbean cruise that turned out to be a great experience for all of us. And that was, the start of a lifelong journey of many who are still traveling together with us, or have also, experienced the confidence to go out with family and friends on their own to destinations around the world. So, after that initial trip, we had a huge spike because, word of mouth, nothing better. So the group got as large as 30 people when we went to places like Belize and Mexico and Grand Cayman. And I think some of you mentioned, you've already been to some of those destinations. So as you can see here, you've got members and family that were in the ocean for the first time with the help of flotation devices, with a little bit of support out of their wheelchairs and walking on that pink and white sand that we all dream about, especially considering yesterday was the first official day of spring, as I was told, but yet I came home to snowflakes when I got back from my destination and was like, my God, is this calendar really correct or not? And, again, sometimes it's just that added support of being able to go out there and live your dreams, as you can see through these photographs. So traveling, as we all know, for individuals with differing abilities can be challenging, not just for ourselves, but also for our companions, but just as much for the providers. And so collectively, as a group, what we have to ensure is that we share what those challenges will be well in advance, and that we make sure that whatever accommodations are needed, are known to the providers and to the organizers, so that they can judge and honestly be transparent whether there are going to be bumps in the road. We all know the world is truly not accessible. We have to just accept that fact. But that shouldn't mean that we should lock ourselves in the house and say, all right, you know what, throw our hands up in the air and say, I'm not going to ever travel. There are laws out there, as we know. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Unfortunately, the AODA mandate of January 2025 has come and gone, and many of those end goals have not been met yet. But hopefully, with the advocacy and education of everybody here today and others, we will get there. So depending on abilities and limitations, we collectively determine what type of assistance and planning is required well in advance, and so that we can remove as many barriers as possible. Sometimes, we do have to live with the bumps in the road, just like able-bodied individuals. Things do come up, but that shouldn't deter, the quality of life that we all envision having. So in promoting, inclusion, it does increase by participation, self-esteem, and confidence. This is what our members have told us. It gives them the opportunity to make their own choices, provide satisfaction and that enjoyment and pleasure in life that we're all seeking. It develops a sense of community as well as new friendships. And as we know, by getting out there, we also increase our physical and mental fortitude. So what we offer, as you can see through some of these photos, is travel vacations, and these are group vacations, so you're not sent out, on your own. We travel collectively, and so those logistics are looked after by our team of making sure that all the travel vendors fully understand what is going to be required in order for everybody to have an enjoyable experience. We also offer local summer, winter recreation programs, as I said, whether those are day trips, or overnight weekend retreats, etc. Based on what you're seeking, all you have to do is come, as I said, with the will, and together we will find the way. So our mission here is to do our best to help overcome any barriers by, as we said, the POE equals the QOL, which is the providing of opportunities and experiences to improve a person's quality of life. A few destinations that we can share with you. We haven't updated this slide in a while, I realized, when I took the presentation off the shelf. But, from the pictures that you saw earlier and the bucket list that others have shared with us, there's a list there from Disney to cruising to places like Alaska and the Panama Canal. Believe it or not, you saw pictures of the Winter Olympics in Whistler, going down the mountain on a sit ski, for example, and some other places that many of you mentioned, whether they be here in North America or around the world. So our goal, and hopefully yours, is to dissect this acronym as a final sort of activity to today's presentation. So you figured out POE equals QOL, which is great. So the word goal that I know all of us set, for ourselves every year, in terms of personal ones, this is a slightly different take on the word goal, or the acronym GOAL. And hopefully by going through this presentation, we've given you some hints of what that means in the world of accessible travel. Anybody want to take a crack at this? No? Tough one? All right. No worries. Let me share what we try to inspire in our constituents. The message is to get out and live each and every day. All right. Sometimes it might just be baby steps outside the door, like you said, in the backyard feeding the birds, and that will graduate to going, to the hecticness of downtown Toronto and through Pearson Airport, and eventually to whatever it may be on your bucket list. So here's some ideas based on what some of you shared about what you'd like to do, whether it's going to the Caribbean, riding in a hot air balloon. People say, well, how am I going to do that in my wheelchair? Well, just remember, where there's a will, there is a way. Okay. We've been to places like the top of the Eiffel Tower and the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You can go swim with dolphins and go scuba diving or in an African safari. So the sky, like we say, is the limit. How can you get involved? So connect with us. We do have a website. We have an email, Facebook page. We have a subscription newsletter that you can sign up through our website to see what activities and opportunities we present on a regular basis. And we'd love to see you get out and live and join us in whatever it is that you'd be happy to try and to engage with us. Any suggestions that you have, feel free to send us an email. We'd love to hear about any ideas that you have, and hopefully spread the word. Let others know that there is an organization out there. You do have to obviously be mindful of the fact that you could go online and go to a travel agency. And like I learned, that was the constituents that I used to serve, the mass market. And it wasn't until that calling came to me to say that there are individuals who do face other barriers and challenges, and with a genuine effort to engage in a constructive discussion with them, we can advocate and educate the vendors as to what our needs are, so that we can all experience the possibilities of traveling. Any questions, anything that I can help answer that might be a reason you came today? Hopefully the information I've shared is knowledgeable and has been inspirational to motivate you, if not in the near future, but sometime down the road, to try this out, whether it be, as I said, through a day trip, a weekend retreat, or one of our travel adventures.
Hi, Keith. I have a question. Is it what to maybe give us an idea of how you do things or how you make things accessible? What are some of the tips or tricks that that you do to make things accessible? I know, for instance, I mentioned earlier about when traveling through the trains in Europe, there is a service that you book your ticket, and then you log in and email a place to say, hey, I need an attendant there to get me into the train, right? And to the process. What other things are available like that maybe, because right now it's kind of a black box.
Yes.
And it's like, well, it's kind of like the unknown at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've not only heard, but unfortunately also experienced sometimes some horror stories where you think you've done your due diligence, but let's face it, as we said, the word accessibility and inclusivity means different things to different people, whether that be an airline, a hotelier, a bus transportation company. And we've, just through the social media or watching the news, reading the newspaper, you hear the horrific stories about wheelchairs being left behind, and, the plane takes off and all of a sudden you arrive at a destination and your mode of, transportation or your livelihood there is taken away. So it is about preparing well in advance, like you said. Now, unfortunately, with technology, email, and communication becoming less and less personal, you send, like you said, a note saying this is what I require, and then fingers crossed, and you hope that when you get to the hotel and you said that you need a wheelchair accessible room with a roll-in shower, that actually is one that meets your needs. Because let me tell you, we've been to places where all of a sudden you walk in and sure, the door is wide enough. There are grab bars, but to get into the shower, there might be like a 6 or 8 inch lip and you look at the, the hotel person there, and in their mind, that's accessible. They imagine that, that wheelchair is just going to propel up over that little lip, and what's the big deal, right? Or yeah, that's a bed that's high enough or low enough, and it's accessible. Never mind that, the new chic thing, as I like to say, and I said yesterday when I was in Ottawa to many of the hotel service providers and chains, I said, can you show me a picture of your accessible hotel room? Because you can't get to all of these destinations. We've learned the hard way is that we do our best to go out to these destinations before traveling to them and letting members know that these might be some of the hiccups. So at least you're prepared in advance. So that anxiety and the stress when you walk in and you see that lip, you're kind of like, all right, there's got to be a plan in place since this is what, the club has decided to do. But I looked at pictures yesterday in Ottawa of hoteliers who were showing me, look, Keith, we heard what you said. Look at our bathroom, and here's our bedroom. And I look at the bed and I say, lift up that, duvet, that beautiful duvet and that big high top mattress, and let's see what's underneath. And all of a sudden you see a platform bed. And by a platform, I mean something that has no access to get under the bed for someone who's a quadriplegic or a paraplegic that relies on a Hoyer lift each and every morning and night to get them out of their wheelchair into the bed. And they look at me like, what do you mean this is not accessible? I said, well, how do we get the Hoyer underneath this platform, right? And they're like, oh, we didn't think of that. And I said, yeah, exactly. Because when you spent, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars creating this chic or beautifully designed room, you didn't engage a disability expert or a person living with a disability to give you their life experience, right? You are just focused on the cosmetic and the aesthetic issues of the room rather than the feasibility of what someone living with a mobility or a vision impairment or whatever it may be, and that's what you need to start thinking. So what we suggest to each one of the people that reach out to us, whether they're a member of our club or whether they're traveling with us, as a tip is, whether you're going to a hotel or you're flying on an airline or, to kind of what you talked about, Alan, is try to resort back to, I know it's difficult and challenging, but those phone conversations, in today's world, you don't know who you're talking to and what part of the world when you're making your reservation. And with online reliance, your booking could be going, halfway across the world, and somebody's looking at it saying, all right, Keith is asking for, a wheelchair accessible room. And what does that mean to that person based on the standards that may be in Europe or, Asia or wherever the call center may be? So even when I suggest picking up the phone and calling a call center, I don't mean calling that call center being 1-800-HILTON or take your pick. I mean, the Hilton Hotel in downtown Toronto, San Diego, Panama, wherever it may be, through an 800 connection through their call center, asking for their front desk, if not their general manager, asking for them to send you those pictures. Because let's face it, you do have choices. And if they don't want to go the extra mile based on understanding and putting on their website that they, truly accommodate accessibility needs and are inclusive, then they don't deserve the business, is what I tell them. So if they're not willing to engage in those discussions, move on, because there are many others out there who will understand and will work with you. So, call the hotels directly, call the service providers directly, help them understand specifically, right? So things that we take for granted around what the word accessible means, put that aside. Treat this as they have absolutely no knowledge of the word accessible, and tell them exactly what that means and what it is that you need in that room, in that seat, assistance with loading luggage, whether it be in the overhead bin or, at the back of the bus. Hopefully that was helpful. All
Yeah,
right.
thank you very much, Keith. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, or?
Yes, why is it so expensive for us to travel as a single? Like to get the room rates and the hotel rates and stuff like that and occupancy? Why?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a double sword, in terms of not only, do hotels. Yesterday, again, I was having this, trying to educate them when they were showing me their accessible rooms. And I said, 90% of them have a king bed. Okay, so there right away, that doubles the cost. And when I asked them, all right, why did you choose to put a king bed here? Oh, because, we wanted to have as much room as possible for the person. And I said, what do you think the person is doing in this room? Apart from really sleeping and using it, to freshen up or shower. I said, they're not playing football in here. Again, it's the failure to ask the user what they need, right? And so by putting a king bed, whether it's a caregiver or, a colleague that you are traveling with, you're forcing them to consider that they want to sleep together. And I'm like, no. And then they say, well, Keith, we do have a connecting room here where the caregiver or and my next question is, oh, you're giving that to me for free? Thank you so much. And then they look like, no, wait a minute. What do you mean free? I said, well, exactly. You've just doubled the cost for someone who sometimes, finances are a barrier, right? And so therefore you are taking away that opportunity to travel at a reasonable cost. Now, to answer your question, Janet, about, the single supplement, there are suppliers and vendors out there who are starting to get it. And this was a message that we delivered, about 15, 20 years ago when we started this. I remember speaking to the vice president of Disney because we could never get the accessible cabins that we needed. And we had members willing to pay the big ticket to go on a Disney cruise line. And I was at a conference that they were speaking at. And when the questions came up, I said, Mr. Smith or whatever his name was, I said, could I ask you, why every time I call into your reservation center, there's never any accessible cabins? And he's like, oh, I find that, surprising. I said, well, can you tell me how many you have? And he says, well, maybe 2 or 3. And I said, really? I said, and how many cabins do you have on this ship? And he looked at me and said, oh, about, 15, 1600. And I said, wow, really? And he says, well, we don't have a demand, and that's why we don't have more. And I said to him, or them, I said, the notion that if you build, they will come? I said, don't look at it as waiting for them to come and then you will build. I said, if there is no opportunity to have an experience, you've already shut the door before you can even have a discussion. And that's one of the things that we have to advocate for every time you go into a hotel or, speaking to legislators, because there is a ratio, there is legislation of how many accessible rooms percentage-wise need to be built, especially with new builds. And I can tell you, most of them don't come close, but there's nobody out there challenging them. It's just like the parking spots, in our supermarkets, right? Yeah, there's a beautiful sign up there, but how many people just pull in and take advantage of it? And we frown, but how many of us actually take a minute to educate the person if they don't have, yeah, that's great, right? If they don't have that permit, you have to, sometimes I hate to say shame them to educate them, right? And, I'm only going to be in there for 5 minutes is the answer I get. I said, yeah, but I don't have 5 minutes to wait to get in there, right? And you have to be blunt. You have to hope that that education will make that individual think twice the next time. And as I've said to, all the tourism and hotel providers, I said, you do not have enough accessible rooms for the persons living with the true disability, the visible ones. I said, and as the population is aging, and I tell them, the tsunami is not coming, it's here. Okay? And as, the more able bodies see these rooms being available to them and see how big they are and how, accessible they are, even though they could manage in a quote unquote regular standard room, they're asking for the rooms like at Disney, and there aren't any qualifiers as to who needs them. And so unless they build the quota that they've been mandated to, they are shutting out 25%, 1 in 4 persons in the world that live with a disability. Because again, they have not built or created the infrastructure to meet the need. And they're still living in the world of, yeah, this is an accessible room. You just pick them up and you just help them into the bed if there's a platform, right? Or you just leap over that lip that's in the bathroom. Or, sorry, we gave away that room to someone else that said, they needed it. Even though we called you this morning to let you know we're on our way and made sure that that accessible room had our name on it. It's paid for in advance, and you assured us. And that's where the name of the general manager comes in, because then the onus now, as you're standing there, the onus is now on them to fix the problem because you did all your due diligence. And if that means paying double the cost to accommodate you at the hotel next door, down the street, provide you the means to get there, that, according to legislation, as far as the ADA in the US and in the AODA, at least here in Canada, is now their liability and not yours.
Yeah, and part of that trouble though is that we're kind of Ontario and the US are kind of blessed in that way because unfortunately not every country has that kind of legislation.
Right.
Is there a list out there for that?
Yeah, there, because it changes so often, and like I said, it means different things. There isn't any master list that I can share. What I do when we are doing our research is to go to each consulate of the country that we're hoping to visit and engage with their accessibility officers, because quite often they do have them, and and get them involved in the process. I mean, I remember on one of those cruises, we actually got to engage with the Minister of Tourism that met us on the island as we deboarded the ship for our day excursion. And, they wanted to learn from us what they could do on their island to welcome individuals. Because if you've been on a cruise ship, right, the tendency for most persons using mobility equipment, and I don't want to generalize here, but is now we're just going to stay on the ship here where we're safe because we don't know, whether there's going to be curb cutouts. Where this Minister of Tourism said, Keith, I'm going to arrange for that wheelchair accessible bus to take you to all the local, to one of the local special needs rehab centers that we have for children born with different needs. We're going to take you to some of the, so again, it's about asking for what you need, preparing in advance. Yeah, we can't just throw up our arms and say it's their responsibility. As that slide said, it's a responsibility of, the traveler, the travel companion, if there is one, the caregiver, and of the service provider. So, we've got to be advocates, we've got to be good communicators, we have to know what we need, and then we have to go out there and find it.
That's great. Thank you very much, Keith. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of information there, and sometimes it's a bit of a odd network to navigate, and
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah, I
get
like to
through it,
say
so I
we are
really
looking,
appreciate it.
yeah, I like to say we are looking for those needles in the haystack, and you know what? We have to stay positive. So hopefully we will see each one of you out on one of our opportunities and experiences, as we like to say. We'll let you choose, which one that may be. Like I said, it doesn't have to be overwhelming or daunting. I think once you get out there and start living, which I know we all do, but have that balanced lifestyle of looking after yourself, not just worrying about the work at hand today in the house or the job tomorrow. I like to tell myself, life is too short, and we got to have as much fun as possible while we're here.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you again for the opportunity and the time. Please, I look forward to reading your emails and any feedback or recommendations. You know where to reach us, either directly or through Alan. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Enjoyed your
you.
presentation.
Cheers.
Very
It
positive.
was very good. Yes.
Thank you so
Question.
much. Bye for now.
Question for you,
Thank you.
Keith.
Bye-bye.
Question for you,
Oh,
please.
yes. Yeah.
On your website or your Facebook page, whatever, do you promote different tours that you provide during the year, or is it just you help in a single base, response request?
Yeah,
Do you-
no, so we list all of those trips, whether they be, like I said, day trips or weekend retreats and the travel adventures. And we also get a lot of feedback of what, others want to know about or want to suggest, is it possible to do such and such thing? So I invite you to our website and to send me an email with your thoughts or questions. Absolutely.
And I'm presuming this is all based outside of Toronto, right?
No. So we go to the theater downtown Toronto. We go to the hockey games. We go to boat cruises. Outside of Toronto could be as near as Stratford or Kingston or Niagara Falls. It doesn't have to be out of the country or out of the province.
Yes.
So we try to
Debbie,
make
Debbie
those.
and Daryl are out of are
Yeah.
in Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
sorry?
I guess
Moose
that's why
Jaw.
I'm asking. Can you link up with other provinces?
Oh, I'm sorry.
with
You're in.
people?
Oh,
Can they
okay.
link up with you?
Yes. No, sorry. Great question. So
Yeah.
we've had participants who lived in BC, Alberta, Nova Scotia, all over the country, who then, when we are going, let's say, whether it be to Florida or on a cruise, whether they meet us up in Toronto if they need a little bit of support from there, or meet us at the destination before we board the cruise or before we go to Disney, etc. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like to think Toronto is the center of the universe, but we're slowly accepting that it may not be.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.